Okay, my three big stories are going to take me longer than 3 minutes today, so just be prepared for that. I'm trying to cover a couple of really thorny issues. Okay, first thing, why did the IL-76 crash? Well, it looks like it was shot down, but we still don't know some of the reasons why. Radio Free Europe was asking, going through point by point, so were 65 Ukrainian POWs killed? It's not entirely clear, even though both sides say a prisoner swap was planned, but we just don't know to say definitively. So, according to the Moscow Times, there were supposed to be several VIPs from Russia's military and political leadership on that plane. And at the last minute, they backed off. And decided not to do it, or they were told, don't get on that plane. Okay, so if you want more about it, I would recommend Suchomimus or Denis Davdov. Suchomimus was doing things like geolocating the flight route. Denis Davdov is a pilot, and he understood some things that only pilots would understand. And he was talking about the POWs that were on the list. Well, some of them had already been returned, so it's a really interesting thing. I don't know what exactly has happened, and I don't claim to, but if you want to understand, I would commend them. Story number two. This is going to be the long one. Okay, now here's a tweet from Jake, and I want to put a fine distinction on what he has to say. Jake wrote, Republicans are refusing to vote to secure the border. Biden and the Democrats are offering them a deal to secure the border and get military funding aid for Ukraine, and Republicans want to see Russia win more than they want to secure the border. Trump is calling Republican senators and telling them not to vote to secure the border because he wants to campaign on this issue the next 9 months. Now let's hear what Senator Romney has to say about this.
And the border is a very important issue for Donald Trump. And the fact that he would communicate to Republican senators and congresspeople that he doesn't want us to solve the border problem because he wants to blame Biden for it is really appalling. But the reality is that we have a crisis at the border. The American people are suffering as a result of what's happening at the border, and someone running for president ought to try and get the problem solved, as opposed to saying, "Hey, save that problem. Don't solve it. Let me take credit for solving it later."
So Jake's kind of right in the sense that this is what Trump is doing. But that's what Trump is doing, and that's different than what all Republicans are doing. Republicans actually genuinely want to solve this, in my estimation. I could be wrong, but this is how I perceive things. If you look at the most important issue facing the country in the New Hampshire elections, the greatest issue was immigration, by a long shot, and foreign policy was down to single digits. Now, if you also look at who won immigration, it was Trump. So Trump knows that he has a winning issue here, and he wants to keep a winning issue. But the Senate also wants to do their job, and let's talk about that. So here's the Washington Post today. Ukraine for border negotiation hit snag as Trump moves toward nomination. Okay, faded the bipartisan border deal that Senate Republicans demanded to fund Ukraine aid appeared dimmer this week after Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican Kentucky, acknowledged that to Republicans that former President Donald Trump's opposition to the deal has complicated its future. Trump slammed the negotiations in a social media post that said he would only accept a perfect deal. Now, I don't believe that Congress was trying to create perfect. They were trying to get movement toward resolving the issue, but perfect wasn't on their mind. They are just trying to make progress. Let's look at The Guardian here, because this was interesting. This was another article, U.S. border policy deal within reach despite efforts by Trump to derail it. It's not the Republicans writ large, it's Trump. Are there Republicans also in Trump's camp? Yes, there are. But it's painting with too broad of a brush to say all that. With the fate of U.S. aid for Ukraine hanging in the balance, the outlook for the border compromise had appeared grim following reports on Wednesday night that Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell was walking away from a compromise that he suggested could undermine Trump's chances in a November general election against Joe Biden. But by Thursday afternoon, senators involved in the discussion were insisting that the opposite was true. An agreement was within reach, and legislative text could be realized in the coming days. Referring to Trump as the nominee, McConnell reportedly told Republicans in a closed-door meeting on Wednesday night that, quote, politics on this have changed, according to a report in Punchbowl News. Now, I've never heard of Punchbowl News, but according to this report. We don't want to do anything to undermine him, McConnell said, referring to Trump. Now, that's what was reported. Again, let's go on a couple more paragraphs. That's like parallel universe bleep. Senator Tom Tillis, a Republican of North Carolina, involved in the negotiations, fumed to reporters on Thursday. That didn't happen. It would amount to a surprising about-face from McConnell, a strong supporter of sending aid to Ukraine and no friend of the former president, who has leveled racist broadsides against McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao. She's the former secretary who, incidentally, spoke at my graduation, and mercilessly disparaged the Republican leader as an old crow. Okay, so with that being said, let's go back to the Washington Post article. James Lankford, Oklahoma, the lead GOP negotiator, said Thursday that he thinks McConnell was just laying out the tough political reality for Republicans given Trump's opposition. So Trump truly is in opposition. So Jake's kind of right in that sense, opposed to actually getting a deal done because he wants to continue to run on it, because he realizes this is a winning issue writ large and that he is winning that winning issue. So I think that's kind of right, but it's not all Republicans opposed to it, but Trump's opposed to it. Okay. There are some people that oppose the bill based on the presidential politics issue rather than the crisis that's actually occurring at the border, Lankford said. But leadership has started discussing dropping the border security portion of the aid package and moving forward with a supplemental funding bill that would include aid to Ukraine, Israel, and the Indo-Pacific, according to three people familiar with the discussions. So we're back to where we were before they were trying to use leverage. It is a big issue for the Republicans, but if they can again decouple it, and this is what I was saying from the beginning, Ukraine funding is too important to be kicking around like a political football. I understand the process, I understand this is how it's working, but they should have already done this to begin with. Okay, we've got to drive hard to get this done, and if we can't get there, we'll go to Plan B, said Senator John Thune, number 2 ranking Republican. For now, at least, there are still attempts being made to reach a conclusion. The deal's negotiators said the next day would be crucial for the future of the talks. I think the Republican conference is going to make a decision in the next 24 hours as to whether they actually want to get something done or whether they want to leave the border a mess for political reasons, said Chris Murphy, Democrat of Connecticut, the lead Democrat negotiator. If Republicans blow this up, Vladimir Putin will win the war and Europe will be at risk. So I hope what you're hearing from that is that it's not all Republicans that are doing this. Trump wants that issue. The Senate is trying to do their job. The House is a little bit more of a wild card, but that's where we are. Okay, today I put this video out. Should I contact my senator? How do I do this? And I talk about that. I tell you, here's what you need to do. Here's how to do it. The Senate is the branch of Congress that's actually more inclined to make deals and try to get things done. So please watch that video if you haven't already. Okay, let's turn our attention to the other big thing that we almost overlooked because of everything else going on. So this is Anton Gerashenko last night. Some reports that the oil depot is close to the Rosneft oil refinery. It was on fire. So Ukraine hit another oil refinery. This would be, I think, the third oil refinery in a week and a gas export terminal, all within about a week, maybe 10 days tops. So it's happening. It keeps happening. Here's Politico talking about the same incident. Ukraine attacked an oil refinery deep inside Russia. Now they hit a refinery with a drone 1,000 kilometers away from Ukraine-controlled territory. Late on Wednesday, several pro-Kremlin Telegram channels reported a strong fire at the refinery located not far from the Black Sea coast. The SBU strikes deep into Russia and continues to attack objects that are not only important for the Russian economy, but also provide fuel for enemy troops. There will be many surprises later. Systematic work is going on, a Ukrainian official told Politico. Where is this? Well, it's over on the coast. This is where it is, and here's Crimea. And I keep saying this, but Russia is a huge target and they can't guard against everything. And if you can send a drone 1,000 kilometers into Russia, there's a lot that they can't protect that's 1,000 kilometers in. And so this is going to go from bad to worse for the Russians. All right, that's all that I have to say. I'm sorry that this 3-minute update went so long, but thank you for your patience with me. I hope that clarifies, especially the Trump Republican kind of thing. I think the Senate's going to get to a deal, and if you haven't reached out, if you're an American and you haven't reached out to your congressman, please watch one of these 2 videos, and it'll help you get a sense of what you need to do. Thanks for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.